All right, so tonight we've got a story for you that was sent in by a subscriber named Vineet. And it's a really chilling account of his time working at a call center in India, a place that he claims was home to a lot more than just its employees. This is the story of the haunting of Saffron BPO. Now, before we get into it, Vineet wants to make one thing crystal clear. This isn't just some campfire story. He swears that every bit of what he and his friends experienced was absolutely real. So, with that in mind, let's step into the world of the Saffron BPO. So, our story starts in Gurgaon's Udyog Vihar, which is this huge industrial area, and tucked away there was the Saffron BPO. For Vineet and his friend Summer, it was just another night shift, a big open-plan office, rows of glowing computer screens, and that constant low hum of people talking into headsets. And in the cubicle right next to them, there was this woman named Rose. She was really quiet, very beautiful, and pretty much just kept to herself. But here's the thing. She was the office's star performer. Always on time, super efficient. If you said hi, she might give you this little faint smile, but her eyes would immediately snap right back to her screen. For a while, everything was totally normal. Rose was just another part of that familiar nightly routine. But then, one night, a single phone call came in that would completely shatter that routine and kick off a series of events that were just terrifying. It's about 12:30 in the morning when Rose takes a call. No big deal. But then hours start to go by, and she's still on that same call, just whispering softly into her headset. This was weird. Most calls lasted maybe 15 minutes, tops. So the team leader, getting concerned, decides to tap into her line to see what's going on. And you know what he heard? Nothing. Just dead silence. There was no one on the other end of the line. The second the team leader patched in, Rose slams the phone down hard. She whips around and glares at him, and Vineet said her eyes were just filled with this pure, boiling rage he'd never seen before. She didn't say a single word, just grabbed her bag, stormed out of the office, and never came back. So, after 3 days of Rose being a complete no-show and her phone going straight to voicemail, the company started to get seriously concerned. The team leader decided he'd go pay a visit to the home address that Rose had put down on her hiring forms. When he got there, he found a family in mourning. He tried to explain he was looking for his employee Rose, but they just looked at him, completely heartbroken, and told him his story was impossible. Rose couldn't have been working at Saffron BPO. And why was it impossible? Because, according to her parents, their daughter Rose had been dead for 8 years. When the team leader came back to the office with that news, you could have heard a pin drop. A total stunned silence fell over the entire floor. Everyone had seen her. They'd talked to her. She had a computer, a login, a desk chair. So the question on everyone's mind was terrifyingly simple. If Rose died 8 years ago, who or what had been working right beside them every single night? After that bombshell dropped, the whole vibe of the office just changed. The fear was so thick you could feel it, and pretty soon it seemed like that fear started to invite something else in. Strange, unexplainable things began happening all over the building. At first, it was just the sound of footsteps walking down an empty hallway. Then, an agent came running out of the washroom, totally hysterical, swearing she saw Rose's reflection behind her, but with blood-red eyes. Security rewound the CCTV footage and saw a dark shadow figure moving around in the empty pantry. But the last straw? Rose's old computer turned itself on, and her username just glowed on the screen as it logged itself in. Now, Vineet's friend, Samar, had been the skeptic through all of this, trying to find a logical reason for everything. But that all changed one night when Vineet was on leave and Samar was stuck at the office by himself. This was the night the haunting got personal. It was late, around 3 a.m., and Samar was just about to wrap up his shift when his phone rings. He answers it, and he hears that familiar, crisp, professional voice on the other end. "Hello, Rose this side. How can I help you?" Terrified, Samar just slammed the phone down. The instant he hung up, the lights in the entire call center started to flicker wildly and then just went out, plunged into darkness. And as his eyes adjusted to the faint emergency lights, he saw it. Across the room, Rose's empty desk chair was slowly, deliberately spinning, all by itself. Totally panicked, Samar just bolts for the pantry. He's standing there in the dark, trying to catch his breath, when he feels this sudden, intense cold right next to him. And then a girl's voice whispers right in his ear. "Hi, Samar. You forgot about me." He whips around and sees two glowing red eyes in the shadows. That was it for him. He grabbed his bag, ran for the elevator, and started frantically mashing the button for the ground floor. When the doors finally creaked open, he wasn't looking at the lobby. No, he was staring into a foggy, old cemetery filled with these shambling, undead figures. And right there, in the middle of them, was Rose, just smiling at him. Samar, somehow, miraculously made it home that night. The first thing he did was call Vineet and tell him everything that happened. They didn't even need to discuss it. The very next day, they both walked in, handed in their resignations, and never, ever set foot in that building again. It was weeks later that Vineet learned the final, chilling piece of the puzzle from his landlord. He found out that the entire Saffron BPO office building had been constructed directly on top of an old cemetery that had been bulldozed to make way for development. Maybe Rose wasn't the only spirit that had been disturbed. Now, you'd think the story ends right there, right? They quit, they got away from the building, but the haunting wasn't tied to the building. It was tied to them. Or to be more specific, it was tied to Samar. Months went by. Life had pretty much returned to normal. And then, one night, at exactly 3:45 a.m., Samar's phone starts ringing. It's an unknown number. He ignores it. It rings again. Annoyed, he finally picks up. There's just silence. Then a faint static crackle. And then a voice he had prayed he would never hear again. When he checked the number later, his blood ran cold. The call hadn't just come from some random number. The call was from the main landline of the Saffron BPO, a building that was now permanently shut down and totally abandoned. The Saffron BPO building still stands there, empty and abandoned. But Vineet says that to this very day, Samar's phone rings every single night at precisely 3:45 a.m. It's always from that same dead number, and the voice on the other end is always, always the same. It seems like some calls just can't be disconnected. It really